What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Wordsmith's Forge. I'm Matthew J. Coran. Today, I want to talk about why truth matters, particularly in the realm of writing slash storytelling. And this kind of came to me while I was reading through St. Thomas Aquinas. And one thing that kind of blows my mind is, let me just show you. This is the Summa Theologica of St. Thomas Aquinas. As you can tell, this is a very large book, very thick, and the print is microscopic. Look at this. Like, literally, it's an insane amount of writing. And as a writer who struggles to write like 100 words in a day with a full-time job, I'm like, how? How is that possible? I'm literally asking myself this because, like, this is some of the most well thought out, like, theology that still shapes the church to this day, and this is almost 1,000 years old. Like, how is that remotely possible with a fraction of the technology that we have? And I have all the tools at my disposal and can't write nearly that much. Obviously, that's a lifetime's worth of work, but you get my point. And a couple things came to me as I was kind of meditating on that. And I think it comes down to two things. One is that his writing is so incredibly structured. Because the way that the Summa is laid out, there's, I think, 3 sections. Each section contains a number of questions related to different theological topics. And within those questions, he breaks down different aspects of the question that he breaks down into articles. And within each article, he lists the topic, several objections, point to the contrary, and then his reflection, his own personal reflection on the topic. And then he goes and gives a reply to each objection that he listed. He does that for each article, for each question, for each section. It is incredibly structured, like, to the point where, like, you could make a Wikipedia on it and it would be, like, very easy to navigate to any particular answer he has to any topic. Like, it's that structured, and it's awe-inspiring to me. And it inspires how I go about structuring my own writing. Obviously, as a fantasy novel, I can't write like that. But I can organize my world in such a way where everything makes sense, right? Like, and it's more of just organizing my notes in that particular way. And that's kind of what I did a little bit of that when I first started the Breathsinger Saga. The first thing I did before I wrote any story was I created the world and certain rules that went along with that world. And that's important because once you write the story, the character's got to follow the rules, right? So it's important to have that structure because that's literally what's going to give people a firm foundation on which they can conceive of the rest of the story. And it gives you a foundation to build the story on. And so being organized is heavily important in any creative endeavor. I know I've touched on that in the past, but that's been made abundantly clear to me reading even just a little bit of the Summa, is that it pays to be that organized. And then the second thing was his this is why he's called the angelic doctor of the church, because he was so pure. Uh, he was so removed from sin and what's called concupiscence. Sorry, concupiscence, which is basically your proclivity to sin, where it freed up his mind so much. And this is something I can personally attest to because, and I say this in all modesty, I'm way smarter now than I was in college. Like, I'm not just talking about, like, I know more, I'm a little bit wiser now. I'm literally smarter, I can process things faster, and I make better decisions with less information. And it's not, like, I don't think it's anything I did. I think it's what I stopped doing that made all the difference. Because in college, I was steeped in so much sin with because like in college you're just exposed to so many different vices and everything, and like it's just horrible the kind of stuff you're exposed to. Like, parents, really consider where you're sending your kids if you want them to go to school. Don't just let them go anywhere, because most colleges are literally just there to extend your adolescence and just drive you into hell with all of the indulgences they offer, between, you know, fornication, drunkenness, drugs, like all this stuff. It just drags you down into hell, and it's not worth it. Like, yeah, you can get educated in some things, but at what cost? Because we're gonna look at St. Thomas and the fact that his mind was kept so pure that it's not that like he just became this super genius. It's that the grace of God was able to flow so freely through him that he was able to fully utilize the gifts that God had given him. And that's something that I see in my life where I'm not it's not like I was given any superpowers by not sinning. It's more of that I was able to make better use of my gifts because I couldn't, like, I was so cut off from God's grace that like I didn't know left from right. And especially when it comes to the area of a writer, um, at least when you're writing to tell the truth of things, it's different when it's like a research paper or something. But when you're literally trying to get to the metaphysical truth of all things, which is what every writer does, whether they realize it or not, um, you need to have a clear head. Like, you need to be rooted in truth, or you're gonna go nowhere. And this is something I learned as I stepped more and more out of sin. I was able to see things more clearly. And this was so apparent to me when I read my first manuscript of my first book compared to what my book ended up becoming. It was like a night and day difference because my view of the world was so messed up from all my sin that my characters kind of sucked. Like, and the worldview was just crappy. But now, I read my book now, and it's a lot more filled with hope and love. Literally a reflection of my life. You know, I stopped drinking years ago, and my life has gotten a lot more hopeful and a lot less depressing. And like this is why it's not bad to enjoy a drink every once in a while. It is bad. It's objectively bad to get drunk. And yeah, it's why I've had people tell me that like they miss me being drunk. I'm like, I don't. It's like you have no idea what was on the other side of that. You have no idea like how depressing it was and how like uncomfortable my own skin I was. Like, it was crazy. But not to get too far down that rabbit hole. But yeah, coming out of that and learning how to actually deal with my problems in a healthy way, and you know, going to confession, mending my relationship with God. It's been an absolute boon in my life where even if even if I wasn't being quote unquote productive and grinding and putting out like all this stuff, I feel so much more free to do the things that God wants me to do that it doesn't matter. Because it's all about doing things with purpose. And the more in tune you are with your own purpose in life, the easier it's going to be to do the things that you need to do. If you're constantly swimming upstream, yeah, you're going to be facing challenges. Like, people wonder why their lives are so hard sometimes. It's like, well, have you ever thought that maybe you're doing the wrong thing? You know? Like, have you ever thought that maybe what you're doing isn't what you're supposed to be doing? Or you're trying to run away from something that you should be doing? It's fascinating when you see it. And yeah, it's been very inspiring to see like the peak of that in St. Thomas, because IQ, people put so much emphasis on IQ nowadays. It's literally the secular version of holiness, where it's like that's what makes you more reliable and what why people should listen to you. It's all nonsense. IQ just means higher processing power. Like, it's like a computer chip. It's like whether you have an i5 or an i7. It's like you can have an Intel i3 processor from 2010 and use it for something good, and have like a super high end i7 processor from like last year, like 64 gigs of RAM, a 5 terabyte hard drive, and like it doesn't matter how great your power is if you're running 30 Google tabs worth of streaming Ren and Stimpy, right? Like, if you're using your gifts for something dumb, you might as well not have them at all. Whereas even if you have a small amount of gifts, if you're using it for something good, you're infinitely further ahead than the high IQ idiot who's squandering their gifts because they have no grace in their lives because they choose sin. And I know that sounds a little aggressive, but like it's the truth. It's like IQ means nothing if you're steeped in sin. And what made St. Thomas so great wasn't a high IQ, it was God's grace manifesting in his life in the most beautiful way because he didn't do anything to impede it. And that's what we all should strive for. But yeah, long enough ramble for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. You can leave something in the comments if you have any thoughts. If you think I'm way out in left field on this one, or if you think you agree. And yeah, as always, you can join up my newsletter, MatthewJCoran.com. And yeah, I got some cool stuff rolling out here soon I'm excited to share. And yeah, you can be a big part of it if you join the newsletter. It's where you get all of the perks and all of the latest news. And yeah, until next time, take care. God bless.